Good afternoon to you. My name is Michael Ritzik, HRICIK. I know the majority of you have logged into the Blackboard course. Make sure at the very least that you go in at least 2 or 3 times a week to see if there's any changes or whatnot, or any adjustments in the class. Somebody yesterday emailed me and said that they were a little bit confused with the assignments. Everything was listed. What I do at the start of the semester is I just put everything that we're going to be doing in the class, and then as we cover them, then I move the items from the current position when we're done with them, and then I move those down to the bottom. So really, for this weekend, there isn't very much to do. I mean, if you wanted to start looking through the course and so on, that would be good. But what I wanted to tell you to do for this weekend is if you go into Blackboard, and then of course if you go into assignments, with the second item listed there, there is information on how to create a signature block. And a signature block is basically just with information about you. Most people will do them this way. They'll put their first and last name, and then they'll put, WCCC, then 145 Pavilion Lane, Youngwood, PA 15697, list their major, give a cell phone number, and then give an alternate email other than the WCCC email in case I need to contact you really, really quickly. So, it does show that in there. It says create email signature block using Office 365. That is really helpful to me because if a student asks a question, and like I'll give you a really good example. At the end of the semester in the fall, someone asked me a question, and it was like really, really time sensitive. So I had to call them on their cell phone and give them the answer. I sent an email, but I also wanted to make sure that that they received it. I also wanted to tell you as well, when you are working or when you are in school as well, the more ways that someone can reach you, the more advantageous it is because, if they have your email, an alternate email, a cell phone, and then later on if you have like a fax or other points of contact, it's good to know that in case they need to really, send something to you pretty quickly. So the other item that I wanted to tell you about is you can see it says installing Office 365, and not everyone is aware of that. As a student at WCCC, you have access to Office 365, which is the version of Office 2010, and you can install Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the other programs to use, which is really, really nice. And so you don't have to use WordPad or Microsoft Works or one of the inferior word processing programs. You have access to that. So I would like you to create an email signature block this weekend, and I also would like you to go into, to get the Open Office, not the Open Office, but the files that you can use for Office 365, for the programs. I wanted to mention a few things to you. You can either buy a new copy or a used copy of the book. If you buy a used copy or if you buy, a new copy, it'll look like this if you buy it from another site or another source besides WCCC. You can also rent these, and you can actually get textbooks at a website called Course Smart. You can get electronic copies of them rather than getting the print copies. And of course, you can rent them. So we will use this book quite a bit and refer to it. So you do need it. You actually don't need it until about the 21st of this month. So you do have some time to get it. Now, if you bought it from our bookstore, yours will look like this: Technical Communication, A Practical Approach. It'll be a brown one. And I just put this into a binder. So that's what I recommend for you. So we got a better deal on this compared to the other one, so we save some money for students. And then you also get the MyTech CommLab card with it. And I did put information on that into Blackboard for you, so I wanted to tell you that. It's just a supplement. You're not required to use it, but it's beneficial if you choose to use it. Now, I wanted to mention to you as well, if you took college writing and you still have this handbook, I would actually encourage you to use it, the Brief Penguin Handbook, because it's helpful to have as a resource to use on your desk and to refer to. So if I tell you you're having an errors in parallel structure, or you need to understand the difference between a dependent or independent clause, how to use a semicolon or a colon, how to introduce quotes properly using transition words, cutting down on wordy sentences. All that is covered in that sort of handbook and is definitely beneficial to you. As I said, even when you're out of school and you're working professionally, I always like to have a handbook available here at the college, but also at home. We used to use this book, the Prentice Hall Reference Guide for Professional Writing, and pretty much it's the same thing. Not the same thing. It has a few differences, but it has like a section on public and professional writing, which would include memos, letters, emails, reports, and other types of documents like that. So it has that tab, but it has the same information: revising sentences, parts of sentences, punctuation, mechanics and spelling, style and word choice, and so on. The section on style and word choice is actually pretty critical in technical communication and business writing, which are sometimes used synonymously. But your style, as far as how you communicate, if you're more formal, a little bit more informal, or if you're really informal. So, and then also the word choice that you use, does make a difference. Now, I also wanted to show you one other book, and one of the faculty here gave me this one. It's an old copy. It's called A Handbook for Office Workers. Now, if you work, as an office manager or supervisor or whatnot, this is one that you might want to consider. It's actually pretty helpful, and it goes into more reports, but also evaluations and different types of documents. Be aware that in Microsoft Word there is an incredible array of templates that you can use. And from 2007 to 2010, I went to Chatham University in Pittsburgh, and I got a Master's of Professional Writing. I decided to go back to school and get another graduate degree. And one of my assignments that I had to do was I had to do something that would be a benefit to my community. So I thought, I live in the town of Mount Pleasant. I thought, boy, a skateboard park would be nice, just like they have at Twin Lakes Park, and they also have one at Mammoth Park. And they're always really, really crowded. And I thought, boy, that would be a really good idea. But I had to do, like, public service announcements. I had to do different types of letters. I had to do promotional information. I had to do brochures and pamphlets. And there were templates for every single one of those in Microsoft Word. So, you can search it. You can always find quite a bit. And so that's what I would encourage you, to do. So I just wanted to tell you about those, those sources. I also wanted to mention to you to bookmark this website. It is owl.english.purdue.edu. So it's the online writing lab for Purdue University. And there's a really good section when you go in there. You'll see on the left side professional writing and business writing. You can click on that, and it'll cover, business letters, memos, resumes, reports, abstract, grant-related writing, lots and lots of information that it would be a benefit to you. They also cover grammar, punctuation, spelling issues, and they also have, of course, sections on documentation like Modern Language Association, American Psychological Association, so MLA, and APA. So all that is available through that site. They also like refdesk.com as a good reference source, and then Bartleby, BARTLEBY.com is pretty useful. I did want to tell you too is if I would encourage you as a student to develop a profile on LinkedIn.com. It doesn't have to be a really robust profile, but to develop one is useful because, say, like if you're in radiology technology, you can join a group that get connected to other people in that field, and it'll help you with your first job, but also conferences and other jobs. And even, you have to get, in certain fields, you have to get continuing education credits. So it's good to get connected to people professionally. So it's like a professional version of Facebook. I did want to tell you to, in the class, to follow the announcements each week. And so that's basically what we will do. So for the end of the first week, you just have to, which is the 16th, Friday, January 16th by midnight, you have to send me an information sheet. You can just number that and send that to me. And then you have to send me assignment 1, which is on what 2 or 3 friends or family members think of you. You just need an introduction to introduce the people whom you chose, why you chose them, how long you've known them, and overall what they had to say about you. About 1 or 2 paragraphs with each person. Try to use examples if you can. And then when you're done with their information, you need to comment on if you agreed or disagreed with what they had to say. And then at the very end, you're comparing and contrasting the similarities between the interviews, for similarities and differences, if they were all similar, if they were very much different, and so on. If you're interviewing your parents, interview them individually. Don't put them collectively, because believe me, your parents don't all have the same exact opinions about you. I'm sure that they would be pretty much contrasting or slightly different. With the email one, with assignment 2, you just have to read those 5 links, and then there were like 4 points of criteria, like format, emphasis, paragraphs and lists, and so on. All you have to do is send me an email on what you learned from reading those. So each of those assignments is worth 15 points. Send them to me through email. You can send the email through Blackboard under Tools, or you can send it to ritzikm@wccc.edu. Some faculty, when they teach online, they have students submit through the gradebook, but I like to practice our email etiquette, and going back and forth. So when you email me, I email you back. And so I like to practice that because it's good for this course, but it's also good, professionally otherwise, to develop good skills. And then just the last thing for the following week, you have to do discussion board 1 and 1A. Discussion board 1 is due by January 23rd. It's revising, I think, like 10 sentences to make them tighter. Please refer to Chapter 17. There's a whole section in Chapter 17 on tightening up your writing, which is so important for this class and for technical and business writing. For discussion board 1A, you need to do the first posting by the 21st of January. Then you have to respond to what another student said by the 23rd. The discussion board is available through Tools, okay? So that's how you get to it. And then after you post a discussion board, you click Submit so that everyone can see it. If you just click Save, it'll be saved as a draft, but you have to click Submit. I would encourage you to type your discussion board postings in Word first, and then just copy them, paste them into the discussion board. So it deals with some of the editing errors and so on. So the discussion board, I think, is a really helpful component of online courses, because it gets, I give you feedback, but so do other students. If you don't agree with what somebody said, though, agree with them, disagree with them tactfully, give your rationale, but it's good skill and good practice to verbalize in writing what you feel is correct or incorrect, or what you like or whatnot, and that's a useful skill that you develop. Online courses are definitely not the same as in-class courses, but my last comment to you is a very important one. So many jobs today are not done in an office. I had a student that was a wound care specialist, and she went to 15 different nursing homes. The practice that she worked for, they covered 4 different counties, so they would go to people that had diabetes, or people that were injured in motorcycle accidents or vehicle accidents, industrial accidents. Those are returning from the war, from the Middle East and so on. And so she had to deal with those wounds that weren't healing. And so she used Skype. She had to use, her digital camera or cell phone. She had to use all different types of electronic communication to try to determine what needed to be done. would the person start to heal? Did they need to be admitted? Did they needed to be taken in to see a doctor? You know, that's what she had to do. But she was an RN, and she had to assess these wounds. And truly, if you're not careful, if you're a diabetic and the wound isn't taken care of, you can lose a limb. So it's of utmost urgency that she had to do this correctly, and if something is a right, to communicate it. I had a student named Carolyn Kegler that was in this class, and now she's a Dell corporate rep. And as a matter of fact, my Dell Inspiron computer at home, there was a problem with it, and so she happened to be in Mount Pleasant, Greensburg, doing some corporate accounts, so they sent her to my home and troubleshot my computer and fixed it. But she said her base is in Johnstown, but rarely is she in the office. She might be in the office one day every 3 weeks. For the most part, she's out on the road. And finally, I had a student in this class that was a petroleum natural gas engineering student from Penn State, and he was doing an internship for BP. He was in Bakersfield, California. He was in a couple places in Texas. He was in Tulsa and Norman, Oklahoma, and he was at a lot of other places. He was actually on a oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico during the summer, so he was all over the place. So, you know, he had to travel about, but he was able to complete this class. I had one student that started a class here in the United States, and she went over to China, and then she was teaching English as a second language, and so for her written instruction, she did how to make a Chinese apple pie. So, like I said, it's not the same, but there are benefits to it. You have to adapt to it, but I can tell you, in my own opinion, I believe every college student should take at least one online course, because it develops skills that are necessary in our current time. So that is it. Good luck.